Hey, so I really like music that sounds like this.
R.I.P. Tina, fuck Ike. Fuck breathing, fuck life. Float to your plug's house in the middle of the night. Fred Hampton hit the cross, then I gave you the light.
And like this. And like this. And even like this. When people ask me what kind of music I listen to, I generally tell them I listen to kind of weird, underground, experimental music. One of the classes I teach is called American Music and Culture, and I always do an entire lecture on experimental music on the last week of that class, because it's something that a lot of people don't even know exists or even wants to know that it exists, but it is actually surprisingly influential. A lot of mainstream artists actually listen to experimental artists and sometimes take little snippets of some of the ideas that more weird and out there artists are doing and kind of put them in more mainstream pop songs. And also just part of my job is exposing people to things that they've never possibly heard of before. So that's why I lecture on it. So I just gave this lecture last week and I did something a little different. I gave a little kind of personal testimony, and I ended up asking someone to hold my phone and record it for me. And I just wanted to share it here. I thought you might find it interesting. So please check out why I love experimental music. So my time teaching at UMBC is actually unfortunately coming to a close. I'm feeling very kind of sad and reflective. And I just thought all right, I don't have much time left. I just want to try to do some weird things. So I just want to talk a little bit about how this music has impacted my life. I tend to get really personal with my students. I think out of all the classes I teach, this is the class I get the least personal with, just because the content doesn't really intersect with kind of my just what I've experienced in life, except for I guess the Baltimore music scene stuff. But yeah, I think experimental music is actually liberating. So just let me tell you about a little bit myself. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I grew up in a very fundamentalist Christian environment. Borderline white supremacist cult, and I'm not kidding. The person I am today and the person I am when I was a child are completely different humans. So my childhood was pretty dark, actually. My parents are very nice, but they're very kind people. They didn't beat me or whatever. But growing up in that kind of environment where just hatred and patriarchy and racism are normalized is really damaging. And I people I grew up with who aren't here anymore. When I said Nirvana saved my life, I wasn't kidding. I wasn't exaggerating. And so yeah, I discovered weird music in middle school. Nirvana was the gateway drug, I guess you could say, for me. And from Nirvana, I get into there were a lot of 90s indie rock bands that were really interesting and weird. Some of you might know Pavement, for example. And so Nirvana kind of helped me realize, there's this whole world out there of people making music that's not mainstream. And then I started making this music as well. And at some point, really recently, I would say, in the past few years, I realized that this weird experimental music, it does so much for you if you can get into it, because it makes you realize, it kind of for me, it kind of unlocked a lot of truths. What we consider normal is just what the people in power want us to think is normal, right? What we actually call music is a social construct. And the thing I'm going to argue in the lecture later on is that there are entire global musical traditions that sound not music to us, right? And what does that mean? Well, that means that what is music depends on so many things, and you can make up what you think is music. You have that freedom, you have that power. And the more I've kind of embraced that truth, I've realized that it's not just music, but life can be experimental, right? So I've tried to take an experimental approach to life, and I can, in a lot of ways, thank the music and the film and the art that I consumed when I was much younger, because I feel it kind of showed me like, oh, other people do this, I can do this too. For example, I mentioned this earlier before, I taught in prison for 3 years, just as an experiment. I said, well, I wonder what it's like teaching in prison. And I got a job in the Patuxent Institution, it's not too far from here, up 95. It was a maximum security men's facility. It was the best, worst experience of my life. I saw the worst the human race has to offer and the best the human race has to offer. So that was a very successful experiment. And I'm planning on kind of taking this experimental approach to continue to do it. So one of my goals in the next year is to see if I can like make content for a living. I've been making content, some of you have checked it out, some of you haven't. So if you haven't, it's fine. But I think I make pretty good stuff. People think I have some pretty interesting ideas. And even though I'm 46, I'm basically next semester going to be making less money than I've ever made in my life, even when I was like 25. Because I just want to see if this works. If it doesn't work, I'll just go get a real job. But I feel like your generation needs to hear that. A lot of you are about to enter an America that is very different from the America you were promised when you were in high school and middle school, right? And again, I'm not trying to get political, but like I just know based on my students that there's incredible levels of fear and concern. And I think one of the ways that I'm able to brave that is by leaning into a more experimental approach to life. You know, when the world is crumbling apart, well, build a different one. That's kind of the lesson I learned from this music. I know it sounds so simple. Obviously, life is more complicated than that. But like literally everything in our world today only exists because at some point somebody said, "This is a good idea. Let's do this." Right? Our entire reality is constructed. Right? You know. Our government, our economics, our entertainment, all of that is stuff that developed over time. It didn't drop out of the sky from God. And life is not pre-written for us. And if things are falling apart, start being open to other ideas, start being open to other realities, other ways of being human. That's what this music has taught me. So I love this music deeply. It means a lot to me. And if you don't like it, that's fine. I'm not saying this to like make you like it. If you're like, I just think experimental music is dumb, I just want something that sounds good, that's totally fine. I'm just saying that for some people, including myself, if you can really like get on the wavelength of this kind of art, it really can turn you into like a much more open-hearted, excited, strange, open-minded person. That's what this music has done for me. So yeah, that was it. Any questions?